Given that former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn is now a witness for the prosecution, the Russia probe is clearly bearing down on President Trump. But the fact is that even before this appointment of the special counsel, the president consistently rejected the fact that Russia waged a covert campaign to influence the 2016 election. Now, in a comprehensive new report, the Washington Post has spoken to 50 current and former U.S. officials who paint a devastating picture of how President Trump is willfully ignoring Russia's attack on our democracy. As a former administration official tells it, quote, there is an unspoken understanding within the National Security Council that to even raise the matter is to acknowledge its validity, which the president would see as an affront. Well, according to a senior intelligence official, the president has an aversion to intelligence about Russia. If you talk about Russia, meddling, interference, that takes the presidential daily briefing off the rails. We've also learned today that the president spoke to Putin today by phone. I'm joined now by the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, U.S. Congressman Adam Schiff. Just supposing Trump knew he did something wrong, knew he was exposed during the campaign to dealing with Russian meddling from our side, it's not paranoid for him to worry about getting caught and hating the issue.
Well, that would be, of course, the simplest explanation. Either he is just fundamentally insecure and can't stand any question about the legitimacy of his election win, or there is something that he's concerned the Russians may expose, or both.
Yeah.
But yes, and it looks like Putin is playing him like a fiddle. Putin's comments right along the Trump narrative. We never interfered in U.S. elections. Why are they trying to discredit him? Why are they disrespecting his supporters out there? Those talking points could not have been better written if they came from Sarah Huckabee Sanders. But what I found most shocking in this story, and none of it was surprising, it's all shocking, none of it's surprising, is the comment that basically they have to write the president's daily brief in a way that doesn't upset the president, like he's a child. This is the commander-in-chief. This is the leader of the free world, supposedly. And they can't tell him things about one of our strongest adversaries, Russia, because it might upset him. What does that say about the state of our national security?
Well, it sounds like a third world dictator. That's what it sounds like. Anyway, the Washington Post details how the president appears to be defending the country that sought to undermine U.S. sovereignty. Rather than search for ways to deter Kremlin attacks or safeguard U.S. elections, Trump has waged his own campaign to discredit the case that Russia poses any threat, and he's resisted any attempt to roll back efforts to hold Moscow to account. Anyway, Mueller, the fact that he knows that Mueller's got Michael Flynn as his star witness, the witness for the prosecutors of all time, who probably knows every conversation that has affected or touched on Russia, that's reason for him to truly be scared, isn't it? I mean, I think he'll either go to pardon people now or he'll get rid of Mueller, more likely go to the pardon route right now.
Well,
or discredit him completely.
He's got to be deeply concerned because Mueller has told us publicly he has a story to tell. He is now telling that story to Bob Mueller. Flynn is telling that story. And more than that, you've got Manafort facing very serious charges. And should he ultimately decide to plea and cooperate, that's the campaign manager with other stories that he could tell. We're also seeing, though, in addition to him not being able to get briefed by his briefers without acting out, that the calls that he was making to Congress to shut down the investigation are gaining traction. You could see that in the hearing where the Republicans were trying to shut down Mueller. We see that now in a very worrying way in our investigation. The House majority is scheduling interviews with key witnesses out of state while we're in session so that members cannot attend them. They're scheduling.
How's that hurt Mueller's investigation?
Well, it hurts our investigation. And I think the strategy is they can't shut down Mueller before they shut us down. Otherwise, how do they explain why Congress is continuing its investigation if they think Mueller should be finished? So the game plan, I think, is shut us down. They don't want to follow the facts anymore where they lead. Rather, they're heeding the president's injunction and Steve Bannon's injunction. You need to bring these investigations to a halt. But we still have dozens of very pertinent witnesses to interview and very relevant documents to obtain and people who have refused to cooperate that need to be subpoenaed. And there's no way they can shut this down if they're serious about getting the truth, but increasingly it looks like that is not their objective.
Two questions. Does Mueller have his tax returns?
I don't know the answer. I think the way you get to the tax returns is not by starting out with them. I think you get them by following the money. And if you learn that, for example, the Russians were money laundering through the Trump Organization or guaranteeing loans for the Trump Organization, and you would need the tax returns to determine is that true or is that not true, then there's a basis for Mueller to get them. But
does he need a court approval to do that, a court order?
I don't believe he needs a court order to do that. I think he can probably do that with a
search
subpoena.
warrant. He doesn't need a search warrant.
But I don't know precisely what the IRS regulations are.
My other question is my favorite character in all this is Jared Kushner, who I assume knows nothing about anything really, maybe a little business knowledge, little. He seems to be the next one they'd want to turn.
Well,
after you get past Flynn.
He has testified now, obviously, before our committee and before other committees, as far as I can tell. And with the Flynn plea, we know that he may very well be, this hasn't been confirmed, but it's been reported, he may be one of those senior transition officials that was in the know about what Flynn was talking to the Russians about.
In fact, telling him what to talk about with the Russians.
So the question is that, among other questions, is that inconsistent with, if that turns out
I thought it was Jared and K.T. McFarland were the two people giving him orders before he went to see Kislyak.
This has been reported. I don't know if that's accurate, but
I think we know.
Given Kushner's central role in the campaign and the transition continues to this day, should he decide to cooperate, then there's no telling.
Get ready for the pardon, Congressman. That's when the pardon comes.
I hope not.
Okay.
I hope not.
Thank you. It's always great to have you over here.